I had been married to Ava Sinclair for 5 years, yet we never once had a real marriage. She had her white moonlight, and we were merely in a contract marriage until one day the man she loved returned to the country. She started staying out late, became distant, and even called me despicable when she was angry. I could no longer tolerate it and filed for divorce. But after I left her, she regretted it and began chasing after me relentlessly. For 5 years, Ava Sinclair and I were married, but we never shared a real marriage. During the day, she would flirt with me, but at night, she would call out another man's name in her sleep. When things got heated, she'd indulge in a bit of affection but would never cross the line. Then one day, she confessed to me that she had someone she liked. She said, "Michael, I want to keep my virginity for the person I love. You understand, don't you? Michael, don't be angry. Even though I can't give you my heart and body, I'm still yours." Despite her not loving me, our life together remained relatively peaceful. I thought we'd continue to maintain a respectful distance until one day when Ava's white moonlight returned to the country. It was on our wedding anniversary. According to our usual tradition, we were supposed to have a candle at dinner. She hurried home from work, took a quick shower, did her makeup, and sprayed some perfume. As usual, I sat behind her drying her hair. While she was preparing, she said, "Michael Evans, I have something to tell you. Go ahead. Chris Anderson is back. So, I can't spend our anniversary with you today." I had expected it. I nodded. "I understand." Ava was a bit surprised, but quickly replaced her surprise with excitement. She continued, "Chris Anderson doesn't know we're married. I hope when you meet him in the future, you won't reveal it." "Of course, I'll do as you wish." Satisfied with my response, Ava smiled and kissed me on the lips, saying, "Michael, I'll make it up to you. Thank you for loving me and tolerating me." She still thought that my tolerance for her, even allowing her to have another man in her heart, was enough to prove my love. But in truth, it was the opposite. She had her white moonlight, and I had my own love, though she didn't know it. Ava and I had what you'd call a whirlwind marriage. The first time I met her was at a bar. She was surrounded by a group of men, and while she appeared to enjoy the attention, I could clearly see the disdain and contempt in her eyes. Curious, I wondered if she disliked this atmosphere so much. Why did she surround herself with so many people? Was she punishing herself? As I passed by, she noticed me. Ava stared at me for a moment, then called out, "Would you like a drink?" I wasn't interested, but I smiled and said, "Are you buying?" To my surprise, she replied, "Seriously, I can book the whole place for you." Her generosity shocked me. I had no pressing matters, so I sat down with her. She seemed much happier, drinking glass after glass until her face turned red, her expression blurry. Slowly, she leaned on my shoulder and in a flirtatious tone, said, "You look like someone I know." I asked with interest, "Who?" She smiled mysteriously. "I'm not telling you. I thought our encounter would be nothing more than a passing moment." But the next day, we met again, this time at a business meeting. When she saw me, she was surprised, but without a word, she signed the contract, then added me to her contacts under the pretext of work. Our conversations went smoothly, but I didn't expect that the next day she'd ask if I was interested in getting married. Ava Sinclair, drunk in a bar late at night, clearly had someone she liked. I couldn't understand why she would propose marriage to a stranger. I even asked her. She didn't answer directly about the person she liked, but in a half-sweet, half-pouting tone, she said, "I just want a home. Will you give me one? I'll treat you well." Later that night, Ava returned. She reeked of alcohol and smoke. She had never smoked before. As soon as she entered the room, she threw her arms around my neck and kissed me happily, saying, "Chris Anderson complimented me today. He said I looked great in what I was wearing." "Okay," I nodded. "But you smell strong. Go take a shower." "Do I?" She raised an eyebrow, seemingly excited. "Are you jealous?" "No," she suddenly whispered in my ear. "Do I look good? Didn't Chris Anderson say so? You look good." "You're so boring," Ava pouted, and went to the bathroom. Our marriage was nothing but a farce. We acted like an ordinary couple, flirting, kissing, but there was one thing missing: love. She married me because I was a stand-in for Chris Anderson, and I married her because my true love had passed away years ago, and I had nothing left to hold on to. I had once thought about letting go of my feelings for my true love and trying to make it work with Ava Sinclair. So, I tolerated her, loved her, and gave her enough security. But the result was always the same. From beginning to end, I was nothing more than a tool for her amusement and flirting. Just like on the day we registered our marriage, when she kissed me and said, "We're just playing. Don't take it seriously." She was reckless and demanding without any boundaries, and she was utterly satisfied with the sense of belonging I gave her. She would say that every time I touched her, it felt like Chris Anderson was confessing his love to her, but she never realized that it was all just her own delusion. The next day, Ava Sinclair woke up early to make lunch. I was a bit surprised and casually ate a slice of cucumber when, out of nowhere, she slapped me. Her hand turned red from the force. I was stunned. What's wrong?" I asked. "This is the lunch I made for Chris Anderson. How dare you eat it?" Ava Sinclair snapped, pointing to a nearby instant porridge. "Eat that instead." I stared at the carefully arranged lunchbox and then at the bland instant porridge that hadn't even been heated. I chuckled bitterly. I'm not really hungry. I have some work to do, so I'll head out. You stay busy. It was the first time Ava Sinclair had shown me such a dark side. She had always been so seductive and charming that I almost forgot I would forever just be an imposter in her life. Now that the real deal had returned, it was clear I no longer served a purpose. At noon, my secretary knocked on my office door. He said someone had sent me lunch and some flowers. I picked up the flowers and saw a card with Ava Sinclair's handwriting. Happy birthday. She must have forgotten that my birthday had already passed. Whose birthday was she remembering? I scoffed and opened the lunchbox. It was delicate, but just takeout. Should I be sad that she had always treated me with indifference, or should I be relieved that she still managed to show a little patience in dealing with me? Her imposter. I broke the chopsticks and took a bite. The rice was hard, and the vegetables were too salty. Suddenly, my phone rang. It was Ava Sinclair. Did you receive the luncheon flowers? I'm sorry about this morning. Are you feeling better now? That's good. By the way, I need to ask you for a favor. Something related to Chris Anderson. When an imposter is being pampered, it means the imposter is expected to pave the way for the real deal. As expected, Ava Sinclair told me that Chris Anderson had just returned to the country and was involved in a project that would require cooperation with my company. I asked my assistant to bring me the materials for the project, and after skimming through them, it was clear this project was a guaranteed loss. No matter how unreasonable their demands were, it seemed they expected us to agree to everything. I told my assistant to arrange a meeting with Chris Anderson in my office. I'll handle this personally. When Chris Anderson entered, he looked at me arrogantly. Mr. Evans, what is this about? I merely smiled and said nothing, tossing the materials at his feet. Chris Anderson furrowed his brows, picked up the papers, and sneered. Does Ava know about this, Mr. Evans? This is my company, not hers. Ava said she has a good friend, and if I just talk to him, I can secure this project for you. Mr. Evans, don't you care about Ava's opinion? He kept calling her by name so intimately, and for a moment, even I was confused. Who exactly was Ava Sinclair's husband? Then again, I was just the imposter. How could I compare to the real deal with a few sweet words? I firmly rejected the cooperation with Chris Anderson. He left, looking unsatisfied, throwing one last glance at me. Mr. Evans, you'll regret this. Chris Anderson, a rookie businessman with all his education, couldn't compare to me, a man who had built everything from scratch. As for Ava Sinclair, a rich second generation, this project, no matter whether it was Chris Anderson or even Ava herself who came to negotiate, I wouldn't agree. I had no intention of sacrificing my own business for someone else's love. That would make me a fool. That evening, I took the flowers Ava Sinclair had sent me home and placed them in a vase, watering them. When Ava Sinclair came back and saw the vase on the table, something seemed to snap in her. She suddenly exploded in anger, knocking the vase to the floor, shattering it, and stomping on the flowers until they were crushed. She walked up to me, furious. Why didn't you agree to cooperate with Chris Anderson? Because it's a losing deal. I can't make a bad investment, can I? Ava Sinclair sneered. What's wrong with losing a little money? I've been trying to please you, taking care of you. Isn't that enough? 5 years. Don't we have any affection between us? Are you saying it's all about money? Yes, we had been married for 5 years, and now she was accusing and insulting her husband for the sake of someone else. I too wondered if there was any affection between us to begin with. I sighed wearily. You've already said everything. I have nothing left to say. Michael Evans, you're impossible. Ava Sinclair lost her usual composure and began shouting at me like a shrew. I don't care. I've already told Chris Anderson about this. You need to handle it. I rubbed my forehead, my patience wearing thin. Before Chris Anderson went abroad, you didn't tell him the truth. How did he treat you? After he found out about your background, he came back and rushed to invite you to dinner. Don't you understand what he wants? Even if he's using me, I'm willing to go along with it. But you haven't even said much and are already trying to sow discord. Michael Evans, is this really who you are? Lowly, at the end of the day, Ava Sinclair and I were simply living together, going through the motions. But now, with that sour expression on her face, who was she really putting on a show for? She'd crossed the line. I didn't respond. I walked out to the balcony for a smoke to calm down, and after a moment returned and said, Ava Sinclair, let's get a divorce. Ava Sinclair moved out. She called me petty and said I was crazy. Before leaving, she said, get your head straight, and in a few days, when you realize you were wrong, come to me and apologize. She didn't take my request for divorce seriously. In her eyes, I was just making a joke. She thought I would never leave her. Ava Sinclair, I've had my assistant send the divorce papers. Wait here and sign them before you leave, I said. Just then, my assistant arrived. I took the papers and handed them to Ava Sinclair. I'm setting you free and you're setting me free. It's a win-win, isn't it? Ava Sinclair was stunned for a moment before rolling her eyes. You're seriously sick. Really sick. With that, she grabbed the pen and signed her name. then stormed out. We agreed to never contact each other again. I didn't ask about her personal life, and she didn't call me to reconcile. After a while, I received a call from a friend. "Hey Michael, I think I saw your wife with some pretty boy going into a hotel. Aren't you going to do something about it?" At that time, I was still dealing with the mess Ava Sinclair had left behind in the business. We've been married for a while, and I thought at least, until the divorce is finalized, I should clean up her mess. That way, I wouldn't feel guilty. I knew this day would come, but I didn't expect it to be so soon. It still caught me off guard, and my heart twisted a little. After hanging up, I continued to fix the problem she'd caused. I worked through a few sleepless nights to resolve everything, then finally caught some sleep. After a shower, I got dressed in my finest suit. It was time to pick up the divorce certificate. When I found Ava Sinclair, she was whispering intimately with Chris Anderson. Their bodies were pressed close together, and Chris Anderson casually had his arm around her waist, his hand wandering across her body. Ava Sinclair glanced at me, smiling smugly. "Come to apologize." Of course not. Ava Sinclair clearly wasn't pleased with my answer. She impatiently asked, "If you're not here to apologize, then what do you want?" "Today's the day I'm picking up the divorce certificate," I said coolly. Her pupils dilated, and she looked at me in shock. "Michael Evans, are you serious?" "Yes, I'm serious. Once I get the divorce certificate, I won't bother you again, Miss Ava. Please spare some time so we can get this over with." Chris Anderson looked surprised as well. From the look on his face, it seemed like he didn't even know that Ava Sinclair and I were married. But he quickly regained his composure and said to me, "Mr. Evans, is your divorce with Ava because of the last collaboration? Are you displeased with my proposal? So you're taking it out on Ava? Isn't that a little childish? Or is it that all along you've just been using Ava as a plaything with no emotional investment?" I suddenly found this amusing. If anyone had been using someone as a plaything with no emotional investment, wasn't that Ava Sinclair? Somehow, in Chris Anderson's words, I had become the villain. It seemed like something Chris Anderson had said hit a nerve with Ava Sinclair. She became agitated. "Michael Evans is just a loyal dog, always serving me a plaything." "Huh, you're out of your mind." She walked up to me and said, "Didn't you say you were here for the divorce? Fine, let's go right now. I'll see how long you can keep up this act." On the way over, I thought of countless reasons to make Ava Sinclair agree to the divorce. Though she didn't love me, she had gotten used to the warmth of my hand. I knew she wouldn't let go easily, but I hadn't expected that Chris Anderson's provocation would make her agree so quickly. I should actually thank Chris Anderson for that ill-advised comment. The news of our divorce was plastered all over the media, creating a stir that lasted a while before dying down. A year later, a wealthy magnate hosted a grand ball, inviting industry elites and top executives. And of course, I was on the guest list. It was a coincidence that not long after I arrived, I ran into Ava Sinclair and Chris Anderson. Chris Anderson spotted me first, deliberately holding Ava Sinclair close as they walked over to me, clearly trying to provoke me. "Mr. Evans, is it just you here today?" he asked smugly. Ava Sinclair also began mocking me. "Huh, look at you. You can't live without me. Without me, you can't even find a decent dance partner." "Michael Evans, don't you find this pathetic?" Chris Anderson, still the same as always. "Once a little man gets some power, he struts around like he owns the place," I said, narrowing my eyes with a smile. "You really can't change, can you? Still, eating like a dog." Chris Anderson was furious, completely abandoning his earlier suave demeanor, his eyes bulging as he glared at me. Ava Sinclair couldn't help but show a trace of disdain as she glanced at Chris Anderson. But this was the man she had always dreamed of, and she wasn't about to turn on him just because of a small expression. After a brief silence, Ava Sinclair sneered, "What, are you embarrassed? Michael Evans, if you hadn't been so stubborn about the divorce, you wouldn't be in this situation. Maybe if you begged me, I'd consider being your dance partner again." Chris Anderson probably didn't expect to hear this from Ava Sinclair. He looked at her in surprise, even tugging at her skirt, but she ignored him completely. Even I was starting to doubt whether Ava Sinclair's feelings for Chris Anderson were genuine. Just then, someone suddenly slipped their arm through mine, catching me off guard. I looked in their direction and saw Leah Monroe, the heiress of the Monroe Group and the granddaughter of the event organizer. She winked at me. "Sorry, Michael, I got caught up talking to some old acquaintances." Then she glanced at Ava Sinclair before asking, "Isn't this Miss Ava Sinclair? Michael, do you know her?" I played along with her act, smiling at her. "We've met, but we're not really familiar." Leah Monroe nodded, then turned to Chris Anderson. "I don't think I've met you before. May I ask your name?" "I'm Anderson. I don't think I've heard of any major conglomerates with that surname," Leah Monroe said, pretending to think hard. She then put a hand to her mouth as if suddenly realizing something. "Ah, I get it. A benefactor, of course. Chris Anderson." Chris Anderson's face turned purple, but he didn't dare snap at Leah Monroe. As for Ava Sinclair, she looked stunned, but there was also a hint of reluctance and jealousy. "What's going on between you and Miss Lee?" Ava Sinclair asked, her voice sharp. It's exactly what you think it is, Leah Monroe replied, then nudged me playfully. Ava Sinclair lowered her head and clenched her fists. When did this happen? A few weeks ago, Leah Monroe said with a wave of her hand. Well then, I wish Mr. Evans and Miss Leia a long-lasting relationship, Chris Anderson said through gritted teeth, pulling Ava Sinclair's arm. Ava, let's go. However, Ava Sinclair didn't even acknowledge him, standing there motionless. After a long pause, she finally looked up and there were tears in her eyes. So, what am I, Michael Evans? Had Ava Sinclair always treated me as her possession? Was that why she felt threatened when I moved on to someone else? I wasn't sure. All I knew was that this kind of wanting it both ways mentality was pathetic. Oh, Miss Ava, I said, smirking. Is it really okay to flirt with Michael in front of me and Chris Anderson? Even if Chris Anderson isn't jealous. I'm getting pretty irritated. Leah Monroe let out a wicked laugh and planted a kiss on my cheek, then pouted. Michael, it's stuffy and gross here. I'm getting nauseous. Let's go somewhere else. All right, I played along, affectionately pinching Leah Monroe's cheek. All right, whatever you want. As we passed by Ava Sinclair and Chris Anderson, I gave a slight nod. Miss Ava, excuse us. I'll take my leave now. Leah Monroe and I walked arm in arm until we reached the balcony. After scanning the area to make sure Ava Sinclair hadn't followed us, we let go of each other. Just as I was about to thank Leah Monroe for rescuing me, she spoke first. I can't stand how Ava Sinclair always walks all over people when she's on top. Today, you helped me take her down a peg, so thanks. I raised an eyebrow. Didn't expect Miss Leia to be so straightforward, is that so? Leah Monroe leaned against the balcony railing, taking a deep breath before flashing me a sly grin. I didn't expect Mr. Evans' love life to be so complicated. Her words made me chuckle. Miss Leia, you're quite witty. Oh, are you interested in me? Leah Monroe said, resting her arm on the railing, watching me with interest. Just appreciating, that's all. I really did admire women like Leah Monroe. Bold, direct, yet with a sense of humor. In truth, Ava Sinclair used to be the same way before Chris Anderson returned. Leah Monroe didn't seem pleased with my response. She pouted. When a woman shows interest in a man, the last thing she wants to hear is that she's appreciated. Mr. Evans, are you really that much of a straight shooter? Appreciation is my highest compliment for a woman, I replied. Leah Monroe smiled, then pulled a business card from her pocket and handed it to me. Nice to finally meet you, Mr. Evans. I really like your personality. I glanced at the card. It had her number on it. When I looked up, Leah Monroe was already walking away. She was certainly an interesting character. By the time I got home, it was already late. I quickly took a shower and collapsed into bed, falling asleep almost immediately. The next day I went to the office to handle a project. Coincidentally, both Ava Sinclair and Leah Monroe came to discuss a collaboration with me. Rationally speaking, Leah Monroe's terms and her perspective on the project were much more in line with my interests. But for some reason, Ava Sinclair, who was acting out of nowhere, insisted on competing for the project with Leah Monroe. She even shamelessly said that I could name my terms, and Sinclair Group would accept without question. It was certainly an enticing offer. But this project was nothing special. While it could make a profit, it wasn't a big deal. Why then was Ava Sinclair going to such lengths to steal it? Moreover, she had never shown interest in the company's affairs before. So why now? And did Chris Anderson know that Ava Sinclair was using his beloved Sinclair Group assets to gamble? I would love to see Chris Anderson's twisted, gloomy expression when he finds out about this. It would be quite a sight. Despite how tempting Ava Sinclair's offer was, I still chose to go with Leah Monroe. Ava Sinclair was clearly frustrated. She confronted me. Why is my offer not enough? Michael Evans, I've given you a way out. If you cooperate with me, I'll let bygones be bygones, and I might even consider reconciling with you. You'd better take the hint and not push your luck. Miss Ava, we're discussing business. Please don't mix personal matters into our negotiations. So, what if I do? That just shows Miss Ava isn't a reliable business partner. I'm looking for a trustworthy collaborator, not a love-struck fool who's lost her mind. Ava Sinclair was enraged, even trying to flip over my conference table. She exerted all her strength, but the table didn't budge. Embarrassed, she scratched her neck. Then, in frustration, she spilled her tea all over me. Before leaving, she arrogantly said, Michael Evans, don't think that when you come crawling back, I'll be forgiving. I smiled faintly and raised my hand. Take care, no need to stay. After Ava Sinclair left, I signed the contract with Leah Monroe. Before Leah Monroe left, I couldn't resist asking, there are many projects like this one. Why choose to work with me specifically? I'm not like Ava Sinclair, a clueless fool. I'm investing in you because you have the capability. I make money and leave a good impression on you, Evans. Why not? Leah Monroe winked at me with a smile. After this, Leah Monroe added me on WeChat, saying it was for easier communication about work. One evening, I was at a business gathering when both Ava Sinclair and Leah Monroe showed up. Ava Sinclair pulled out a chair beside her as if expecting me to sit next to her. But Leah Monroe, almost at the same time, pulled out a chair beside her. I ignored Ava Sinclair and sat next to Leah Monroe. Leah Monroe grinned triumphantly, shooting a provocative glance at Ava Sinclair. As I was picking up some food, my phone vibrated. I placed my phone under the table and opened the message. It was from Leah Monroe. "Mr. Evans, does this make me look good?" I glanced at Leah Monroe, who met my gaze. "Not bad," I replied. By the time we were halfway through the meal, it was time for toasts. Everyone present was someone important, and though I was allergic to alcohol, I had to force myself to drink. I'd done this countless times when I ran business for Ava Sinclair. She didn't even know I had an alcohol allergy. After every business gathering, she would rest her head on my shoulder, laughing as she tugged at my tie. "Can you still drink? Let's have a couple of shots together." If she had paid more attention, she'd have noticed the red rashes spreading across my skin. I'd attended countless drinking sessions for her, drinking bottle after bottle of alcohol. And at my worst, I was hospitalized because of it. But when I came home, she never cared, even scolding me for staying out late. Looking back now, it's laughable. Why did I go so far for her? Just as I was about to drink another glass, I felt the familiar rashes begin to appear. Leah Monroe noticed my discomfort and seemed to realize what was happening. Without hesitation, she grabbed my glass and drank it herself. "I'm working with Mr. Evans. Since he's not feeling well, I'll drink on his behalf," Leah Monroe said. It was against the rules, but given Leah Monroe's powerful background, no one dared to make an issue out of it. I wanted to refuse, but Leah Monroe firmly pressed my hand down, preventing me from reaching for the glass. Ava Sinclair glared at Leah Monroe, yet she was helpless. Suddenly, my phone vibrated again. It was a message from Ava Sinclair. "Why didn't you tell me you're allergic to alcohol?" I glanced at it, feeling a pang of sadness. If she had cared, she would have noticed long ago. The truth was, she didn't care about me at all. "Come over, I can drink for you." I didn't respond. Seeing that I was ignoring her, she panicked and sent several more messages. "If you come over now, we can reconcile. I'll get Chris Anderson to leave for now. I can give you what you want. Anything." I had no idea what Ava Sinclair's intentions were when she sent these messages, and I could only imagine how Chris Anderson would react if he saw them. It just made me feel disgusted. I silently blocked Ava Sinclair on WeChat. Leah Monroe had already had a few more drinks, and even though I wasn't feeling well, I couldn't let a woman drink on my behalf. I patted Leah Monroe's hand, signaling for her to relax. I took her glass and drank it all in one go. Leah Monroe stared at me, frozen. Meanwhile, Ava Sinclair, standing off to the side, went unnoticed, but her eyes were red, letting Miss Leah drink for me. How could I bear that? I turned my empty glass upside down to show the others, then filled it with more liquor. "I'll take a drink for myself." The atmosphere immediately heated up with a few older folks enjoying the spectacle, teasing me and Leah Monroe, saying, "We make a perfect couple, a match made in heaven." They joked that maybe we'd been secretly together all along. Otherwise, why would we care so much for each other, even fighting over a drink? I could only force a smile, while Leah Monroe, bold as ever, replied with a grin, "I'm the one chasing after Mr. Evans. You know, stop joking around," I said, pulling out a wet wipe to dab at her flushed face and cool her down. Leah Monroe waved her hand nonchalantly. "What, Mr. Evans, are you shy?" Ava Sinclair, clenching her teeth, shot us a resentful look from across the room. It felt like she was being excluded while we were having a lively time, and she stood alone in the corner, the air around her thick with tension. Though we were in the same place, the atmosphere felt entirely different. Eventually, as the teasing from the older crowd continued, Ava Sinclair finally snapped. With a fierce glare, she slammed her glass down on the table, hissing at the elderly people. "Why are your mouths so loose? Got nothing better to do?" She then stormed off, leaving the room cold and awkward. Ava Sinclair wasn't known for mingling with these people before. I'd handled the socializing for her. After I left, Chris Anderson lacked both the ability and the guts to manage these kinds of events. Now, with her outburst, any deals we had were probably ruined. After the event, Leah Monroe asked me to drive her home. On the way, she suddenly spoke up. "I've heard stories about how you used to drink like a pro while entertaining for Ava Sinclair. Apparently, you could outdrink several big shots. And now the ever-so-resilient Mr. Evans turns out to be allergic to alcohol. Miss Leah, you flatter me. It's just an old problem from my childhood. Nothing to worry about. Does Ava Sinclair not know?" I paused, then instinctively made an excuse. "I never told her. You two were married, sharing a bed. This isn't the kind of thing she should miss, right? Michael Evans, was it really worth it to do all that for her? It's all in the past. Miss Leah, I'd rather not talk about it. Such a fool." Leah Monroe glanced out the window, grumbling. "Lucky you two broke up. Otherwise, you'd have been suffocated." Ava Sinclair, that idiot, only knows how to exploit others. No shame. I couldn't help but laugh. I hadn't expected Monroe Group's Aries to curse like that. All worked up. It definitely wasn't the image I had of her. "What's so funny? What? Laugh at me, huh? You're an idiot too." Leah Monroe shot me a playful glare. I drove her home. As I was about to get back in the car, Leah Monroe suddenly ran over, tapping on the window as though she had something to say. "Did you forget something?" I asked. She shook her head. "I just wanted to tell you. Sometimes you don't need to tough it out alone." I paused for a moment, surprised. "Got it, thanks. Also, what else? You're a good guy. Why cling to one person? It's time to move on. You've already divorced, so why not find a new place to call home?" I looked at her. "Don't overthink it. I'm just saying, cough cough goodbye." It was late by the time I got home. I had just parked when I saw someone standing by my door. As I walked closer, I saw it was Ava Sinclair. "What are you doing here? I've been waiting for you." Ava Sinclair was gripping her handbag strap, her fingers fidgeting nervously. "Did you just drop off Leah Monroe?" "So, what if I did? When did you get so close to Leah Monroe? What's it to you? I know you're trying to make me jealous. You're purposely with Leah Monroe to get back at me, aren't you?" Ava Sinclair looked at me with genuine eyes. "Michael Evans, stop messing around. Come back to me. Don't be mad anymore. I'll admit defeat. Is that enough? You think I left you because I was mad?" I laughed bitterly. "Ava Sinclair, you really think too highly of yourself. I'm not listening. I don't care what you say now. I know you still love me," Ava Sinclair insisted. "Even though I can't let go of Chris Anderson, as long as you come back, there's always a place for you here." "Ava Sinclair, you really dream big. What do you want? 2 husbands. Now, you've been married twice already." I stepped around her and opened the door. "Instead of wasting your breath here, you'd be better off signing up for stand-up comedy. I think you have a knack for it." "Michael Evans." Ava Sinclair grabbed my arm. "Are you really going to take this all the way? This will benefit no one." I shrugged her off. "You're wrong. Only you'll lose out." Without another word, I closed the door behind me. She stood there for a while, but the cold finally drove her away. The next day, Ava Sinclair barged into my office, reeking of alcohol. "Mr. Evans, Miss Ava insists on seeing you." My assistant stood awkwardly by the door. I waved him off, signaling for him to leave, and he got the hint, closing the door behind him. Ava Sinclair collapsed onto me, limp and soft like a puddle, holding an empty bottle of liquor. "Drinking this much so early. Isn't Chris Anderson going to stop you?" I muttered, pulling her onto the couch. "Wake up, stop sleeping here." I patted Ava Sinclair's shoulder, trying to rouse her from her stupor. Ava Sinclair's eyes were hazy, and she reached out to touch my brow. "Chris Anderson, I'm Michael Evans." I shifted my body, and her hand missed its target. Upon hearing my voice, Ava Sinclair burst into tears. "You're Michael Evans." Ava Sinclair, drunk, smiled at me. "Right? You're Michael Evans, not Chris Anderson. You're my Michael Evans." Her Michael Evans. If this had been before our divorce, before Chris Anderson returned to the country, I probably would have smiled and responded, but she never gave me that chance. That kind of affection was always reserved for Chris Anderson, never for me. She used to be just as drunk like this. I went to the bar to pick her up, and she hung herself on my neck drunkenly, trying to kiss me, asking for Chris Anderson. "I'm Michael Evans," I'd said, just like I did today. She'd shake her head and laugh. "No, you're Chris Anderson, my Chris Anderson, the one I like." I'd stay silent for a moment, then reluctantly agree. "Yes, I'm Chris Anderson. Ava, let's go home." Thinking of those painful memories made my head throb with a sharp ache. I grabbed Ava Sinclair by the arms and yanked her off the sofa. "Stop causing a scene in my office. If you want to act crazy, do it somewhere else." Ava Sinclair, hearing this, rubbed her eyes in distress. "Why do you hate me so much? What did I do wrong? Or maybe you really don't have any feelings for me anymore." For a moment, I almost wanted to rip open her mind to see what nonsense was inside. Does she know what it means to treat me well? Maybe in her eyes, treating me well means satisfying everything except love and body. But I'm not that simple. I'm greedy. I'd rather not have these hollow gestures. Michael Leah Monroe isn't anything good. She can't give you what you want, but I can. She's no match for me. I'm better than her. Michael, look at me. I'm your Ava, Ava Sinclair. What do you want me to say? I can't read your mind anymore. You say you like Chris Anderson. Fine, I'll step aside and let you be with him. But now you come to me behind his back. Are you trying to get me back? Who do you really like? For a moment, I couldn't tell if this was Chris Anderson's misfortune or my own. Ava Sinclair, you've long ceased to be mine, and I'm no longer yours. The only thing connecting us is a ridiculous marriage. I pressed down hard on her shoulder. Ava Sinclair, wake up. If you like Chris Anderson, then stop coming to me. Don't let our failure repeat itself between you and Chris Anderson. Do I like Chris Anderson? I'm not sure anymore. I should be happy with him, right? But why? When I see you with Leah Monroe, does it make me so sad? Ava Sinclair lightly tugged at my sleeve. I like both you and Chris Anderson. I want both of you. Ava Sinclair, do you even know what you're saying? I pushed her away in disgust. Just then, Chris Anderson arrived. He furrowed his brow and pulled Ava Sinclair away from me. "Mr. Evans, it's not very proper to bring someone else's girlfriend into your office." "What?" I was at a loss for words. "Why don't you ask Ava Sinclair why she got so drunk and ran over here?" I lit a cigarette. It's a shame you didn't hear what she just said. By the way, weren't you two all la-vie-da? Ava Sinclair drank all this, but I didn't see you trying to stop her. What is her health collapsing now that you can finally take over Sinclair Group? Chris Anderson, you're playing a good game. I must say, I'm impressed. Chris Anderson, clearly irritated, picked Ava Sinclair up in his arms. So, what if I'm calculating? Are you trying to fight me for her? Do you think you stand a chance? Don't forget, Ava Sinclair has always liked me. You're just a sidekick. You think you can compare to me? I knew Chris Anderson's intentions with Ava Sinclair weren't pure, but I didn't expect him to be so openly brazen about his ambitions. Even though Ava Sinclair was drunk, it was hard to say how much she'd remember once sober. Did Chris Anderson really think she wouldn't recall what he said? Or did he assume that even if she did remember, she would forgive him and keep giving herself to him? It was laughable. The three of us seemed like a farce, a bizarre dream. After I kicked Chris Anderson out, I received a message from Leah Monroe saying she wanted to take me out for lunch. I was about to decline, but she said she was already downstairs. Mr. Evans, it's quite rude to make a lady wait, Leah Monroe added. Reluctantly, I agreed to join her for lunch. During the meal, she took a lot of photos. When I asked why, she said it was to document her life. Come on, smile for me. Why do you always look so serious? Leah Monroe teased. I'm fine. I don't like taking pictures. Too bad. She sighed. Too bad for what? You're missing out on being added to the album of a beautiful woman. Beautiful woman, am I not? Huh, of course you are. We both laughed when the realization hit. Leah Monroe seemed to possess some kind of magic. With just a few words, she could effortlessly lift the weight off someone's shoulders, making them laugh from the bottom of their heart. Are you busy this afternoon? After we had finished our meal and drinks, Leah Monroe asked me, Not really. There's nothing important today. How coincidental. Neither am I. How about we go out for a walk? I can hardly interpret this as anything but the fact that Miss Monroe came prepared. Let's call it that. Then, Leah Monroe took me to various places, malls, snacks, streets, even toy shops. By the time the sun was setting, we returned to the office and she smiled brightly at me. Mr. Evans, I had a great time on today's date. I suddenly realized. What's wrong? Are you denying it? Leah Monroe stood on tiptoe and patted my shoulder, looking forward to our next date. Just then, Ava Sinclair showed up with Chris Anderson by her side. Michael, what's going on between you and this woman? What about me? Where do I stand in all of this? She tugged at my clothes, while Chris Anderson quietly urged her to calm down. Has it really been a whole day and you're still not sober? I adjusted my suit and tie. Or are you just one of those people who likes to make a scene for attention? Ava Sinclair, do you think everyone should revolve around you? Do you think you're so special? Do you think you deserve everyone's love and affection to the point that they'll do anything for you? I sighed, continuing. Don't you find yourself pathetic? Look at you now. Don't you resemble a beggar begging for scraps? You could have had a better life. Why do you keep pushing people's limits? Who are you doing this for? You've ended up like this because of your own choices. Isn't it your own doing? Ava Sinclair shook her head in disbelief. No, it's not like that. I love you, Michael Love. How could she even say that? She was saying it in front of Chris Anderson, and even in front of Leah Monroe, who she assumed was my girlfriend. This wasn't love. It was selfishness. Greed. Chris Anderson stood there stiff, holding Ava Sinclair's sleeve without saying a word. I couldn't tell if he really cared about her or if he was just after her family's wealth. Either way, I didn't care. Ava Sinclair's tantrum finally went too far. Unable to watch any longer, Leah Monroe called the police, claiming that Ava Sinclair was harassing me. After Ava Sinclair was given a verbal warning, Chris Anderson took her home. The days that followed were finally quiet. Ava Sinclair didn't come looking for me again, and she was barely seen at any of the social events. Her reputation had already been less than stellar, and after this incident, it plummeted further. No company wanted to work with her. She once said to me, Michael, I want to preserve my chastity for the one I love. You understand me, right? I had already said it before. Chris Anderson was just an intellectual dot in business. He was utterly useless. Sure enough, it didn't take long before Sinclair Group, under Chris Anderson's management, became a chaotic mess, nearly collapsing. After that, I didn't hear any more about Ava Sinclair or Chris Anderson, except for one time when I ran into them in a mall. Ava Sinclair was with Chris Anderson shopping. Ava Sinclair's attire was nothing like the grandeur of the past, and Chris Anderson looked like an elite, a little like someone I couldn't quite place. Who was it? I couldn't remember.